Let's talk about one other fun thing that's about to come down on us, and that's the chloride issue, the 800-pound gorilla in the room, the one that is going to mean a lot of money if we lose this battle. So I want to take you down a little trip down memory lane. I only went back to 2010. We've been arguing about this in reality for longer than that, but I'm just going to start at 2010. And it was in 2010 when the Sanitation Board came and said, you know what, we're going to go discuss implementing this program to expand our water treatment plants and meet this 100 milligram per liter requirement. And I know that last time we came and talked to you, they were talking about $250 million. But we're going to give you a special deal. We're only going to charge you $210 million because we're going to go and put the brine, the leftover salt, down in wells instead of piping it all the way to the ocean. That was the deal then. And I got to tell you what, it didn't make a lot of people very happy. Got pretty well publicized around the city. And pretty much two members of the Sanitation District Board, which are our city council members, by the way. The Sanitation Board is comprised of one, our mayor, one other city council member, and one Los Angeles County supervisor. Currently, right now, today, it is McLean, West, and Antonovich. Those are the three. So they went to our two members went to the city council and they requested more direction from the whole council. What does the city want to do about this? Now, remember, this is 2010, and the staff had a suggestion of a two-pronged approach. The first prong is to continue to work to develop the environmental analysis and design specs, and with the intent to maximize cost efficiencies. How cheap what can you do with the least amount of money to comply with the requirement? But the second prong is the prong I think that is the most important to us, and that's the one that includes developing a legislative and potential legal strategy dealing with the overall water policies and laws at the state and federal level, driving the limits of this mandated desalination. Now, part of it is due to the Clean Water Act of 1972. Part of it is the fact that our Santa Clara River is designated as a navigable river, which always can be navigated as long as you have your boat on a trailer. And because the state has an appointed water board that oversees this interesting thing. So in addition to that two-prong approach at that time, Bob Keller was taken off of the Sanitation Board, and Frank Ferry was put on. And you might remember this from the paper. Remember this from 2010? When we had all those people outside in the front of City Hall just before the Sanitation District meeting, when they decided that they would come to Santa Clarita and actually show their face here. And if you remember, this picture also came out of the signal. And Council Member West, or Sanitation Board Member West, said, who wants to fight this? Do you want to fight it or do you want to just cave in? And everybody said, these were the fighters that raised their hands. And because at that time, we keep hearing different numbers. The regional water board was going to charge us $10,000 a day. Well, you know what? If that was a fine, I'd say pay it. You know, $10,000 a day is $3-point-something million a year. Hell, that's an awful lot less than $210 million. Pay it. But now all of a sudden it's come out to $20,000 a gallon. You know, it changes daily. It's what do they think can scare us today? So on July 27th, the Regional Water Board met, and there were the members. And from the Sanitation District was Stephen McGuinn, the Chief Engineer and General Manager. Man, the meeting room was standing room only. Remember I told you it takes 50% plus one protests to have something defeated. In this case, they saw 7,600 protests, which is nowhere near 50%. But they'd never seen 7,600 protests before. It was something in this case that they said, oh my gosh, we better do something. So they said, we're going to postpone this decision till spring, and we're going to increases to fund the planning, the chloride removal facility, and the increases for the Sanitation District operational budget. We'll worry about that in the spring. We'll just take care of what we need to today. And they approved the current district fee. And then came spring. And when came spring, we decided to attend all of the sanitation district staff presentations, or at least we attended the first couple. Joe and I and Spence attended, and we brought our trusty video cameras with us, and we videoed the whole thing. And sanitation district staff actually issued us a challenge. They said if they could provide sufficient information to convince us that their current operating expense rate increases were justified, would we support the proposal? And of course we said, of course. You know, if you come up with real numbers, and yeah, absolutely, we'll do it. Now convince us. Come tell us. You know, let's hear this information. So we attended that meeting, and we asked lots and lots of questions. And on March 29th, they came back and they answered a lot of questions. And if you remember, they had this chart. Remember this chart? It showed that this was the current rates, and this was the adjusted rate unto inflation. And we kept asking, why are we paying less than what it costs to run the thing? Well, they said the fees were artificially held low because they had extra money, because they had a cash reserve and that they had obtained grants. So they didn't charge us. So it's a very reasonable thing for them to do. We thought that was cool. But in 2003, and this is what I want you to pay attention to this really carefully, because this is where history is repeating itself right now. In 2003, the Regional Water Board imposed a mandate to remove nitrates from the water. And in 2004, they started doing it, and they didn't raise the rates. Well, the reason why they didn't raise the rates was because it was maintained artificially low because one of the staff members told us, you know what, I really did a great job. I got some grants, and then they paid for filters. So we had what we needed. We just kept the rates low. But unfortunately, now the cash reserve, that's what's set up here, it's kind of hard to read, the cash reserves are depleted, and the grants are done. So you know what, we're going to have to jump this rate up past inflation, because we not only have to pay for the inflated rate, but what we have to do is we now have to pick up the cost of that unfunded mandate that you've been getting the benefit of for the past several years. I mean, we just can't back it out. And so, but they said once the fees equal the costs, then it would flatten out, and life would be good as we know it in Santa Clarita again. So remember that story. So the connection fees were a little different story. We didn't really get a good feeling about connection fees. They had a chart showing that the expansion fund had been depleted by Department of Services if the fees were not increased. And the projection shows that expansion of our water treatment plant would be required by 2020, no matter what, based upon the growth of our valley. And I don't think that included the extra 6,000 Newhall Ranch connections that they all of a sudden decided to take on their own. So they at the time, remember these are old charts, they at the time estimated increasing connection fees to $5,000, which would yield an additional $160 million. And we said, why? I mean, that's nice, but okay, is $160 million the right number? Well, we never did get a good answer for that. So, but we just know that it costs a lot of money if you want to open a restaurant here. I believe before they did that increase, when the fees were $3,800, if you were intended to open a restaurant here, the rate was $34,000 per 1,000 square feet of restaurant for connection fees. And so when it went up, that went up proportionally. So now they come back to us, or when they came back to us, we said, you know what? We can support the user rates. We understand them. We don't like them. We don't like the idea that you took on this unfunded mandate and now you're coming, but we understand it and we'll support it. We're just, we're displeased that they accepted those unfunded mandates, but we understand that you, the staff members, you justified what you were doing. But we did question the connection fee increased. And we expressed the opinion the chloride issue is also related to user expansion, and the discussion should not be held separately. So when you're talking about more people, We're talking about more salt, and why are we separating those two discussions? And what action they took was they said, okay, we're just going to increase the connection fees and the user fees, and they'll go up each year, 215, then 231, then 247, and then will be the next election. Oh, did I say that? No, I think the next election actually occurs right there. But it's not over. I said this in 2000 and in April. If the Sanitation District's own words, none of the proposed rate increases being budgeted or for the development of the facilities to include chloride control. No money in here for chloride control. Any rate increases that may not be necessary to support chloride solution will not be proposed until an acceptable plan is developed. And I translated it at that time to say, that translates to, we'll be back for more money. Okay? Just wait. Okay? Well, here we are. We're back. We're here again. Now, on July 26th, there was a Sanitation District Board meeting. As it turns out, Mayor McLean and Mayor West were there. Mayor and Los Angeles County Supervisor Antonovich was absent. To make sure that these board meetings are open and you can get to see them without any problem, they're held in Whittier in the middle of the day. So if you actually have to work for a living, forget it. But this, by the way, is the actual agenda. This comes off the agenda because when I heard about this, when Cam Noltmeyer mentioned what was happening there, I called down and said, I'd like to see, can you send me the agenda and minutes of the meeting? Okay? So, in agenda item 4, they were going to authorize, they wanted the recommendation from the Sanitation District staff management was to start preparing the facilities plan and impact report and design facilities to comply with the chloride objective of 100 milligrams per liter in Saugus and Valencia. And so what they wanted to do is they wanted to do that so they could comply with the site-specific objectives for chloride, to comply with the existing water objective of 100 milligrams per liter. And of course, the board directed them to do it in the most cost-effective way. And when it comes right down to it, they were doing this because the Evil Regional Water Control Board issued a notice of violation to them because they weren't making enough progress. So they thought immediately the way to make progress is to spend money, and they threw $21 million at this. So here it is. These are the minutes of the meeting. And it basically says that the chief engineer and general manager, that's Steve McGuinn, recommended the preparation of these plans to meet the 100 milligrams per liter requirement and comply with all the site-specific requirements for chloride and that limit of 100 milligrams per liter. And in response, Director McLean, now these are our city council members, McLean asked the engineer, what about rate increases? And he says, there are no rate increases at this time. Well, that's interesting. So Mayor West made a motion. It was seconded. There's only one person there, so it had to be seconded by Marcia. And it was carried. The chief engineer was authorized to prepare the plan and for this, meeting the 100 milligrams per liter requirement. Now, I got to ask you a question. Now, I got enough money in the budget just to keep going. And now, all of a sudden, I'm going to spend $21 million more. Where is the $21 million going to come from?
Landscape maintenance.
No, but it could come from a sanitation district, right? So I filed off an email. And I fired it from myself to Marcia. And as she was voted as the sanitation district director chairperson pro tem because Antonovich was not there, At the Sanitation Board meeting, Director West put in a motion, duly seconded, unanimously carrying, authorizing the chief engineer to prepare the facilities plan for the chloride at 100 milligrams per liter and spend an estimated $21 million. This action sets the stage for implementation of this plan, which has been previously estimated to cost Santa Clarita members $250 million, causing sanitation rates to increase over 300%. Oh, yes, it does. Because once they do this, 5 times. 5 times? 500 million. Oh, goody.
Do you mind my offering some clarification to make this worse? It really is worse because the site-specific objectives are aligned with the. I'm sorry.
You have to say yes or no.
The site-specific objectives are aligned with the 117 milligram per liter, which was a compromise, if you will, with the interests in Ventura County. The regional the Water Regional Quality Control Board's position seems to be that in order for that compromise to stick, we have to do the letter of the A-worm and not just meet the 117. So to meet 100, the last estimate that I saw was 500 million, not the 250. The 250 is the half price for 117.
250 million here, 250 million there. Pretty soon you're running into real money.
Yeah.
But,
Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah.
Thank you. But anyway, to me, what this is doing is it's setting us right back into the position of starting the implementation of a plan, just like they did in 2004, okay? And all of a sudden, they're going to finish planning, and someone's going to say, well, now we got to build it. And guess what? You got to pay for it. So I indicated just as relevant were those in April 2001 that indicated that those rate increases were proposed for day-to-day operations and that the cash reserves were depleted and there was no money in the rate proposal for chloride. That's what the Sanitation District told us. So therefore, if we assume, remember I'm asking this question to Mayor McLean, if we assume the Sanitation District statements are true, where is the $21 million in planning going to come from, cost going to come from? What happened to the commitment to fight this unfunded mandate? And as this topic and the resulting effort will have a profound effect on Santa Clarita, how about coming down and talking to us about it? Okay? And please RSVP at your earliest convenience. Well, I sent it on Monday. I mean, I actually sent it on Sunday night. I'll be honest, I sent it on Sunday night. But, you know, it was getting pretty close to this meeting, and I couldn't wait. So Tuesday I went to the city council meeting, and I extended the invitation in person. And Marcia said, well, let me get some of this back together. I'll send you an email, and I want you to be sure to read the response to the group. And I said, of course, I'll read the response to the group. So here's her response to me. Dear Alan, I am unable to attend the meeting, but please feel free to share the below information. As directors of the Sanitation District, Lorraine and I are doing what is necessary to save the residents and businesses as much money as possible and make sure our residents and businesses are not subjected to exorbitant fees because of penalties. We don't like it, and we think we made it clear that we don't like it. Please be assured that we are continuously and consistently doing all we can to ready for the residents and businesses. Well, I tell you what, that's not quite what we asked. We don't want to be, you know, we're not just worried about penalties, we're worried about the cost of implementation as well. So I let that sit for a little bit. And then she said, as I stated at last night's council meetings, we will bring this email to Steve McGuinn at the Sanitation District and ask him to provide you information on the up to $21 million for the study. Okay, cool. So I waited. And I figured I waited enough on October the 17th. I'd waited a few days. And so I sent a letter to John Guledge. And John's a pretty straight shooter, and he's a staff member there at the Sanitation District. So I said, gee, I haven't talked to you in a while. Could you find out if Marcia provided my email to McGuinn? with no increases, do you know the answer to where the $21 million is going to come from? I don't know about you, but I personally, if I was voting on something and someone said I'm going to spend $21 million, I damn sure know where it came from before I said yes. So John immediately fired back an email to me and then called me to make sure I got it, and we had a nice discussion. And he said, yes, Marcia did provide the email. Something may have gotten lost, but we were not aware that we were expecting a response from us. I guess I just fire these things out and go to a psychic advisor to find out what's really going on. I am prepared to respond to your questions. Please assist. I have attached 4 PDFs, actually 3, concerning the board agenda and minutes and their meetings in June. First, let me confirm the statements made by Burns and myself. During the process for the raising rates this past spring, we clearly represented you and the community that rate projections did not include any costs associated with the chloride plan. This was and still is an accurate assessment of the budget. At the end of that process, you supported the increase. Oh, I told you that, right? They justified it. I supported it. And I believe it was a pretty clear message in discussion. I think it would be too. The next thing I would like you to look at is, here you go, Cam. This is it. I would like you to look at is the board meeting agenda for the 17th and the minutes from that board meeting, which are attached. As part of the agenda item 6, the board was to adopt the budget for FY 11-12 at the board's direction. Board's direction, right? Board's direction. That's Marcia and Lorraine. The budget was amended to include $2 million for designing, planning, and environmental efforts for UV disinfection facilities at the Saugus and Valencia water treatment plants. The board was advised that the budget would be amended, but in order to balance the budget of $2 million would have to be borrowed internally from the district's capital improvement fund. So it wasn't $21 million. It was $23 million because you have to add this additional $2 million. And they don't have the money, so they're not going to raise your rates now. They're going to take it out of the capital improvement program, just like they did in 2004. They're taking the money from somewhere else. And guess what? Come 3-4 years down the line, they're going to want you to repay that money. And guess how you do that? Right? So when I see another one of these charts that show the number going up, but our numbers are low, and then all of a sudden it cries, this time I'm not going to be so nice. Your email focused more on the recent action that took place on July 26th, where the board took a broader action directing staff to prepare the facilities plan EIR and facilities to comply with the 100 milligrams per liter objective. The estimated cost for the work was $21 million. While the agenda minutes did not discuss the issue, the board was advised that the source of the funds for this work, they're going to borrow it from the capital improvement program. At this point, you may have questions concerning the company. Well, I think you pretty well told us what the story was. But what they did say was that because part of the process for that plan is an EIR, they need to do public outreach, and they would like to meet with us and come tell us about their plan. So they will. And this guy right here is a staffer, and he follows direction. But he is an honest guy, and I'm sure he'll tell us what the real thing is, whether we like it or not. So summary, I think it's important that we participate in the public outreach. I think we need to start holding our public officials' feet to the fire. What have they done in this past year? What legislative action have they tried to get through to solve this problem? And I tell you, what happened to the two-prong approach? And how is throwing $23 million at this going to save us money? Sanitation District Management, McGuinn and Company, I think are only interested in making their empire larger. Every time they've been down here, McGuinn has talked about spending money he didn't have. He's taken on 6,000 new home ranch users. I believe the board directed him to do that. When supposedly we're going to run out of capability in 2020 no matter what. And it's continually pushed the water treatment plant and chloride remediation process, which will multiply our costs by 5 and raise connection fees by a punch. So we can't go to sleep on this issue. the financial impact of implementing a 100 milligram per liter additional water treatment plant would severely impact our economy. Not only is it going to hit your tax bill, but it's going to hit every business that tries to open and every business that is currently open. Because, if you're specific, I always use restaurants as an example because they pay, you pay one unit, they pay multiple units in their rates. And so if you really want to see some nice restaurants opened on the east side, well, it's going to be a lot harder to happen if they have to pay 5 times more than what they have to pay today. So if we don't push back, what I predict is going to happen is there'll be a recurrence of what happened in the 2003 nitrate issue. The staff will quietly complete the expansion plan and then claim we have no alternative but to comply with the Regional Water Board and spend that $500 million more. Okay? So I think history is repeating itself, and we better start making people aware now. Any question? Oh, questions.
So does that go with the idea behind trying to bring more jobs in the valley? We hike the rates. Wasn't that the Valley of One conversation they're having? The company we're paying all that money to? And what was it, 8 or 64 jobs they brought in?
You think to raise the number of jobs?
Yeah, remember we spent all this money. They did a report about how they're going to bring jobs into the valley, and you asked them how many jobs did you bring in? Was it 8 jobs or 64 jobs?
I don't know. It's just like yeah, we're going to make our economy better by adding another 64 government jobs.
Yeah, I wonder how much that costed us too. Thanks.
Yeah, I hear you. Yes, ma'am. Well, hold on, Mike will be there in a second. Oh, yes.
I have a question. This doesn't seem like it's on. Okay, can you hear me? I have a question of Director Colley, who's on the Cass Lake Water Agency Board. And remember, the Kennedy Jinks folks were being paid to do a survey, a study as to how they could get this minimized. How is that going?
All right, if I answer?
Sure.
I believe the study is in its final being finished. Basically, the answer is yes, indeed. The 117 could be met with much less than the AWORM originally anticipated because the State Water Project will never get the high levels of chloride in a drought situation that are anticipated in the AWORM. Unfortunately, it appears that you once again have a body, a quasi-governmental body. I don't know what you call the water quality folks. The appointed board, kind of frankly, in summary, has taken the position of don't confuse me with the facts. My mind's made up, and they are not interested in the facts that we can meet the 117 much easier. Now, I point out that the last estimate was somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 million to implement the 100. What is also true is that while there's been no firm or reliable estimate that I know of put out, the number to meet the 100 will also be, meeting the 100 will be easier, again, because the State Water Project water will never be as high in chlorides as was anticipated when the AWORM was prepared. I think that is an effort to answer part of the question.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to recall that all of these numbers, 117, 100 milligrams, are based upon a study that was done of a study and was not actually done either in the area or the water even coming out of here. So there really is no scientific basis to even say that that is the level necessary to protect those avocado and strawberry crops. Now, I recall that at that meeting with Supervisor Antonovich and McLean and West, I believe it was, that there was going to be a study done, an actual real study to determine whether or not those were accurate numbers that we even needed to concern ourselves with. Whatever happened with that?
Well, I think you're absolutely right about the original study. It was a study of literature. It was a literature review, and it was funded by our sanitation district. And then when the original water board didn't want to hear anymore, our sanitation district discontinued it. I seem to recall the same thing about another study, and I think maybe we should fire off an email to Marcia and ask her what happened to it. I don't know. I mean, if I knew, I'd tell you. But, I don't get to vote on what they do. So, yes, ma'am.
Yes, first I want to bring up to everyone's attention that there is a hearing down before the LA County Supervisors on October 25th. That's a Tuesday. It starts at 9:30. That is on the Mission Village, which is one of the first parts of Newhall Ranch. And there's also been Landmark that's had hearings. So we have the two where they want to put the 6,000 homes on our sanitation district facilities, which do not take out chlorides. And we found out this after we had gone through a lot of the meetings that you just talked about. All of a sudden, when they started the hearings for these projects, we found out the sanitation district had made this quiet little agreement with them, kind of off the books, didn't show up in any of the EIRs until we stumbled across it, where they were going to allow Newhall Land to put 6,000 homes onto our sanitation. Now, the question remains, we were getting rid of our water softeners. We were told that was going to do it. Fortunately, there was the overdrafting of the Delta, and there were some legal decisions there that made them cut back on how much water they were taking out of there. That has reduced the amount of salts coming in. The biggest problem with salts is, of course, the imported water from CLWA. But that did reduce it. Now, whether we were close, I would like to see the study to see if we can't make it without those 6,000 coming in. But since they made that deal, and this was after they had promised this community, when Newhall Land received a Pacific plan, they were required to do their own sanitation district with a reverse osmosis plant. Reverse osmosis because their water there is high in salts. And that reverse osmosis was to remove the salts. They're letting them get away with not building that until, I believe it's 2024. So they are throwing that whole 6,000 part of Newhall Ranch into our mix without really telling the public about it. Now, when you look at that should have been right up front when they were doing this. Instead, they passed it off as though, no, we're going to be self-sufficient, and then the sanitation district made this private little deal with them. So that is the kind of thing you're dealing with. So we're going to be down there on Tuesday bringing this up in our remarks. If you're concerned about it, try to go down. There's going to be carpooling available. And express your concerns down there. As far as saying they are doing it because this is the first time they've been threatened with fines, no. Back in 2005, I've seen so many, 250,000 fines. That is nothing new. They're just using that as their only defense right now. This community has to come out and demand complete honesty from your elected officials with regard to this. But there is this opportunity before the Board of Supervisors on the 25th, and I hope some of you can make it. Thank you.
All right, so I'm just hoping that when you see these videos come out, you share them with your neighbors, because they're going to be. This is going to be a very, very important issue, and it has a very, very devastating potential of costing us an awful lot of money.